Hello and welcome to Thrive After 45, the podcast where we redefine what's possible in midlife. I'm Denise Drinkwalter, your midlife renewal coach, here to help you embrace your power, purpose, and potential. This is your space to let go of guilt, navigate transitions, rediscover joy, and thrive for you, by you, because of you. It's an honor and a privilege to welcome Dr. David Yates, a chiropractor with 18 years of experience and a focus on one of the most powerful and often misunderstood areas of alternative medicine, upper cervical specific chiropractic care. Practiced by only about 2% of chiropractors, this nerve centered approach targets the upper neck and nervous system, the foundation of true wellness. Dr. Yates is passionate about educating others, reminding us that chiropractors aren't pain doctors. They're nerve doctors. Through his writing and development of his consulting business, he's expanding his impact and helping people understand how freeing the nervous system from interference can change lives. Let's dive in and welcome Dr. Yates.
Thank you,
Great to have you.
Denise. It's
Great.
great to be here. If you see my daughter like walking in the background, it's because she just woke up and she's getting ready to go have lunch with her dad. So hope that isn't distracting in the background.
We are so flexible here, it isn't even funny. That's fabulous.
I
This
love
is
flexibility. Flexibility is very important.
in many ways, right?
Yeah, I provide it for my patients every time I adjust them. Better flexibility.
Very good. Very good. Can you start by sharing what started you into specializing in the upper cervical chiropractic care? Because it's not very common. And why did this become your calling, do you think?
I love the question. I was in a snowboarding accident back in 1996, which led me to go to a chiropractor for the first time, right?
Okay.
The interesting thing about that is all of my older sisters had worked for one of the best chiropractors in my town growing up. But I never went, I never knew anything about chiropractic until this snowboarding accident, at which time I was taken care of by a wonderful chiropractor in North Hollywood, California, from Australia. Loved, the interaction that we had. I felt great after the care. But at the time, I was teaching. I was teaching in the Burbank Unified School District and didn't have any plans to be a chiropractor.
Hmm.
But when I decided to kind of expand beyond teaching, I got kind of frustrated with just the state of public education, which is way worse now. I'm glad I got out when I did back in 2000. Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
And I just feel like I was led by God into this profession, because of that good experience and because of things not working out as a high school Spanish teacher.
Hmm.
Um, it really led me to, and I got married. I got married in 2000. My wife got pregnant soon after that, and here, so it was a very like transitional area,
Hmm.
or time, I should say,
Time.
in my life
Hmm.
that led to me looking into what is it that David really wants to do, that
Mm.
he's gonna see himself doing for the rest of his life. And so I did some research on chiropractic and what it takes to become a chiropractor. And I'm like, I can do that. It doesn't
Hmm.
look too difficult. And in my research, the first website that I went to when I researched this was NUCA's website, which is the National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know there was a specialty like this in
Hmm.
chiropractic. I didn't know anything about the specialty that I do now. But, as God would have it, that was the first website that I looked at. And I was looking at the research that they had done and the results that they were getting. And I'm like,
Mm.
that's what I want to do. I want to be a specialist. I don't want to be a general chiropractor. I want to help people with chronic disease. And these
Okay.
guys are getting the results that I want to get. And
Hmm.
so before I even started my doctorate, I knew that I wanted to specialize in the upper neck. And the first day of my doctorate program, I met he was the director, the club president of the Blair Upper Cervical Club at the college where I went, Cleveland
Okay.
Chiropractic College in Los Angeles. And interesting enough, I became president of that club the last 3 years of my doctorate. And the club was just, we would meet at lunch
Hmm.
on one day a week there on campus as we were all getting our doctorates in chiropractic. And
Hmm.
we would learn about the technique, which is the technique that I specialize in,
Right.
Blair upper cervical. And so I was teaching this technique to doctorate students the
Mm.
last 3 years. And so, and I love to teach. That's my first love. And so I
Right.
was doing that while I was getting my doctorate in chiropractic. And that's what I do now. I do it at Invista Medical in Bakersfield, California. It's a fully integrated, one of the most prestigious integrated health clinics in all of California. And I've been with them only since August, so less than a year.
Okay. Okay. So, isn't it incredible how your teaching career didn't, there were parts of it that aligned, but I love that you are going and developing your consulting business because, again, that's around the teaching aspect. And you were showing you were already doing that back when you were being trained at the same time. That's so incredible. So, you're finding everything's coming together. And that's what we want, right? When
That is.
that's what our audience wants. So that's what I find, the women that I support and that our program is about is to help people see what you can do for you, by you, because of you. And and there's no limit, right? There's absolutely no limit. Anything is possible. And just even opening ourselves up to, and sometimes we hit transitions where we have a major accident and our life changes and everything falls apart. But really, it's making room for you to discover more of what's possible. So your avenue was in younger, and your accident caused the new door to open up. And I hear this a lot. I don't know if you, when you're working on patients, whether you have that kind of connection with your patients and that's the type of thing that has happened in any of your experiences with patients, that they've had a calamity of some kind that they come to see you for, and it's opening up new doors of possibilities as a result of even conversation with you. Do you find that or?
Absolutely. No, yeah. Every week, I have new patients that I start seeing that they've never even been to a chiropractor. So I
Right,
have the opportunity to introduce them to this fabulous modality and the specialty within chiropractic. Because, like you mentioned, only 2% of
yeah.
chiropractors worldwide do this specialty. And the history even goes further back than the snowboarding accident that I had.
Hmm.
When I was 19, I served a mission for my church in Costa Rica. And this was the foundational experience that led me to where I'm going now into my consulting business, because that experience in a third world country of just being in the service of others without being
Right,
compensated for 2 years straight, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week was absolutely, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have had experiences like that in their lives where that defines what they end up being and
right,
doing later on in their life.
right, right. And when those opportunities exist, if it's a challenging opportunity, one you don't choose to participate in, sometimes when you're in the middle of it, it becomes daunting and overwhelming and you get lost in it all. But what David and I are talking about today is it is an opportunity for you to be able to do some reflection. Why is this in front of me right now? What's the learning? I talk about getting curious. Get curious as to why these things are presenting themselves to you in the way they are. I don't know if you've heard this. I'm sure you've heard this saying before, things happen in threes, right? So, oh, that's my three for today. I'm done. Forget it, right? If that's
Right.
if that's happening, it's like, well, wait a minute. I need to look at what I'm doing to experience all these things that are negative. Perhaps I need to look at things differently. What's the good that's happening out of all those things that are happening that, oh, that's three. I don't want any more?
Well, I'll tell you, Denise, if I didn't have that mindset, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today.
Right.
I have been through some things that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and I
Yeah.
don't even have enemies.
Right.
But
Right.
the power of three in our lives, I mean, God, health, and relationships. The Godhead is made up of three. The
Hmm.
number three is very, very powerful. And if I didn't have that mindset of what can I learn from this
Yeah.
experience that I didn't choose, and I've had a plethora of them in my short, 56 years of life on this planet.
Hmm.
We could talk for hours and hours about the experiences that I've had that I haven't chosen, but that
Right.
I've learned from, and I want to share that knowledge with others, and that's why where I'm going with this consulting business.
Perfect. And I find in today's day and age, there's two ways to go. You can become the woe is me, or you can rise above and go, now wait a minute, how do I want to live my
Mhm.
life right now? Because we only have this moment, right?
That's correct.
If you're in
Tomorrow isn't guaranteed.
Exactly. Exactly. So when you lay your head down on the pillow tonight, how are you going to do that in a way that makes you feel like, and if you didn't knock it out of the park for yourself today, there's always tomorrow, but make sure you take advantage because we don't know when our last breath is going to be,
Well, and
right?
that's the most I would have to say that's the most important attribute that I've developed over the last 20 years has been patience.
Mm-hmm.
And also not I have very high expectations of myself and
Mm-hmm.
others, but I'm being constantly let down by my family and people I know and colleagues and whatnot, and that can destroy you, Denise, if you
Mm-hmm.
let it. You
Mm-hmm.
can't let those letdowns, and that's really what I've learned is that um every night when like I said, when I lay my head down
Mm-hmm.
on the pillow, I'm like, I did the best that I could today,
Right.
and I did, and that's all that's required.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, I don't have control over what other people do
Right.
or say. And having that attitude is paramount, and having the perspective and the patience with human beings, because we're all imperfect. We all make mistakes. We're all
Mm-hmm.
going through this journey together, and we have to be patient with each other and empathetic with each other.
Right. And I would add to that, in my perspective, I would add it even needs to boomerang back even stronger to yourself. Patience in
Absolutely.
yourself, love for yourself, guidance for
Absolutely.
yourself, all those pieces. And that's what our show is about, giving back for you, by you, because of you. And when we do that, my experience has been that what I refer to as my sphere of influence and what I talk to my clients about is our sphere of influence changes with us just giving back to ourselves in ways we don't normally do because we're always worried about everybody else, right?
Well, if you don't take care of yourself and you don't love yourself, you can't fully do that to other
Hmm.
with other people. It
Exactly.
starts with you, and I've learned this through the teachings of God, through the
Hmm.
scriptures, through
Yep.
studying the life of Christ, who is the the example, the ultimate example of love, giving
Hmm.
his life for all of us. There's no
Right.
greater example of love than that.
Right. And everybody has their way of finding what is their way. So,
That is correct. That is
right? So
correct.
some people refer to God, some people refer to angels, some people refer to source. Whatever your experience, whatever your desire, there is no one way. It's what works for you in terms of how are you going to be the best you for you possible. And knowing that you're not doing it for everybody else, but you also take priority in your everyday life. Um, so
Well, and
something I
that's
will, yeah.
that's one of the greatest manifestations and examples of love that we have from God is that that was his plan for all of us on this planet was to have what I like to call free agency. We have the freedom to choose. And what you just said, what's going to be the direction for us? That was the first gift that God gave to us after he created us was our free agency, our freedom
Mhm.
to choose what we're going to do in this life.
Right, right. I'm interested to hear a little more around the idea of freeing the nervous system. What do you mean by that? What what does that mean? How does that happen?
So the nervous system, like our body, is dynamic. Okay. There is constant communication 24/7, unbelievable amounts of data that's being transferred from our brain to our body and back to our brain via the central and peripheral nervous system throughout our lives. Okay. And it really is the foundation of function. I mean, our bodies would not function without this system constantly working. What happens is that this system is protected by our spine, okay,
Okay.
by our
Hmm.
vertebra, 24 vertebra. And if you look at the anatomy of the actual nervous system, the top of the neck houses what's called our brainstem, okay? Our brainstem is the first thing that developed after conception, okay?
Hmm.
And it controls and regulates everything in our body, our cardiovascular system. From there developed our heart and our heartbeat. So life begins and ends with our brainstem. Okay,
Okay.
I like to use the analogy, a couple analogies. Back in the day when hangings were popular, that was the quickest way to kill somebody. Why? Because it immediately destroyed their brainstem. If you
Right.
look at the anatomy, the dens of C2 would be crushed basically and crush the brainstem, and that's what would kill them
Right.
instantly. Another very vivid example of this when it comes to health is Christopher Reeves. When Christopher
All
Reeves
right.
had his equestrian accident, he fractured C2.
Mm.
Okay. And we all remember him being quadriplegic from that
Hmm.
accident. But what really stands out to me is that he had breathing issues, he had cardiovascular issues, he had digestive issues, and that's because his brainstem was so irreparably damaged in that
Gotcha.
accident, and that's what led to his early death. I mean, there are quadriplegics that live for years and years and years, but because
Right.
of the position of his accident, that led
Right.
to his demise.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and that and that's why I specialize in the upper neck because first of all, it's one of the most unstable areas of the spine. So if you're going to be a chiropractor and you're going to, correct misalignments, a vertebra, if you're not focused on the upper neck, you're really doing your patient a disservice because that's where the majority of subluxations or misalignments are in the spine, and they do more harm
Mm,
because of the brainstem. And
okay.
so by me focusing on that area and very gently and specifically adjusting in that area, I've seen results with every chronic disease that you could imagine.
Could you give me an example of one of the chronic diseases?
Well, multiple sclerosis is one. Okay. Fibromyalgia is another
Mm,
popular one where, you go to a doctor and you have fibromyalgia and they're like, well, I don't know what to do,
yeah,
because medical doctors don't treat cause, they treat symptoms. They can prescribe medications for
right,
any symptom out there, but you have to look at what's causing that symptom. That's abnormal. You
right.
don't have that symptom because of a lack of that medication. There's an underlying cause. And I found that the underlying cause, in most cases, not all, because
Right.
it's not a silver bullet. I'm not going to say
Of
that
course.
this is a cure all, but for most chronic diseases, it starts in the upper neck. And your body has an incredible ability to heal itself. It can
Mm,
heal itself of anything.
hmm.
Okay. There are plenty, thousands and thousands of documented cases of
Right.
this in medical journals and throughout the world. Um, and it just I focus on that area because yeah, there's other aspects of mental health,
Right.
emotional health, spiritual health, but what
Hmm.
can I do physically as a doctor to improve the function of this person? It's in the upper neck. There,
Mm.
if you're not working in that area, you're doing your patient a disservice.
Thank you for that. Very thorough. I like that. And I appreciate the examples. That really helps. Um, could you tell us about phototherapy technology just before we wrap up?
For sure. This is a technology I knew nothing about up until January of last year,
Hmm.
2024. I was introduced to it by somebody I didn't even know on LinkedIn. And it was a perfect timing for me to be introduced to this technology because I've never been a products guy. There's a lot of
Yep.
chiropractors out there that push supplements and different
Hmm.
products in their clinic. And it's great because they're great supplements. I was involved with a company years ago that had a wonderful nutraceutical that I just loved. But the reason that phototherapy resonated so much with me is that it's not a supplement, it's not a potion, it's not like a pill, it's not something that you take into your body. What it is it's a little round patch that you put on your skin. And what that patch does is that it redirects the infrared light that your body emits constantly back into your skin and your nervous system, elevating or diminishing certain chemicals in the body that help you function at a higher level. So, as far as products go, this incredible patch, and we had and the manufacturer, LifeWave, is a manufacturer of these patches. They've been around since 2004. So this is a
Okay.
company that's been developing these phototherapy patches over years, and we have like 10, 11, or 12 different patches, but that all do different things based
Right.
on the manipulation of the infrared light that our body
Okay.
emits, because we know that life has different wavelengths, and things like that. And that's what impressed me so much about the founder of this company, is that he's found a way to manipulate the certain wavelength of infrared light that our body emits to activate dormant stem cells in the body.
Okay.
And so, this intrigued me because I know as a doctor that, we're all aging, we're all getting closer to
Yep.
dying, but how can we slow down that process? Well, this is a great way to do it, because after the age of 40, our stem cells go inactive, And after the age of 60, we practically had no active stem cells in our body at all. But that's how we grow. We were born with this millions and millions of stem cells, and that's how our body develops over time. And so this technology is really fascinating to me because what it does is it helps rejuvenate actual cells and tissues in the body, apart from what the nervous system is doing function wise. Structurally, this helps restructure cells and tissues in the body. And I knew nothing about it, prior to January of last
Right,
year.
right. Thank you for that. I'd never heard of it before, so thank you for giving
Yeah,
that thorough review. I appreciate it. Is there
yeah.
anything that you would like to share with our audience, midlife women, on how to um, give back to themselves for you, by you, because of you, through the avenue of the work that you do with regards to your chiropractic care and your overall well-being?
I've talked a lot about the benefits of my chiropractic care. I've talked a little bit about the benefits of phototherapy. Really, something that everyone can do. Okay, and that is improve your relationship with whoever your God is.
Hmm.
If that's nature, if that's Buddha,
Absolutely.
if that's something else,
Absolutely. Yeah.
improve your relationship with your higher source of well-being.
Nice.
Okay, because I you know I have my particular beliefs, and everybody
Hmm.
does, and I respect everybody's belief, but that would be the greatest bit of advice that I could give to women 45 and older, that are dealing with life and everything that life throws at us. I can help balance your body physically,
Right.
with what I do. But your mind is so important,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
what I've done to basically nurture my mind and my emotions is getting to know my creator, who I consider my creator,
Hmm.
patterning my life after his, and trying to be like him has made all the difference in the world. Because, I know people that constantly have health issues despite chiropractic care, despite,
Right.
phototherapy. And
Right.
what helps them more than anything is their relationship with their creator or their higher source of inspiration.
Perfect. Perfect. Get grounded, become who you truly are through a variety of ways of finding out what works best for you to feel good inside your body with your heart, your mind, your soul. And thank you, Dr. Yates, for spending your time with us today. It was quite a little challenge for us to get ourselves together, but eventually we did it. And we said, before we came live, everyone, we were like, we did it. It's happening today.
And challenges, make us better people, make us stronger, and help improve our knowledge, how to do things better, and how to better be in tune with ourselves, for sure.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time today. Make sure that you follow our podcast, Thrive After 45. Give us reviews, share any insights that came through for you today in our show notes, and check the show notes because that's where you can find out more about Dr. David Yates. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and take care of yourselves, for you, by you, because of you. Bye.